It is I. Some words. Words. Speaking. Speaking some words. Speaking some words. It is I. Some words. Words. Speaking. Speaking some words. Speaking some words. Oh, yeah. All parties are in. Greetings, fellow humans. Welcome to the Critical Dispatch number 6. I am one of your hosts, Adam. Last time I checked, that's my name. Jacob will be joining us in just a sec. Today, what we're going to do, we're going to talk to you about some news. We're going to talk to you about how we feel about what's going on in our recent interviews with regards to them. And as an added bonus, we are going to go over some news. Let's check in with Jacob, shall we? Greetings. It is I.
It is I, reunited once again. Yes, I was gonna put a comment for anyone who saw the case, the post advertising the Case Dixon interview on Facebook, but it was not to be today. We messed up and inconvenienced him. We thank him for taking time out of his day to try to do the interview. We're hoping we can do it another week.
By we, sorry, and by we, I mean I, because I had totally mistakenly scheduled a job interview today.
Yeah.
But today, what we're going to do,
Adam.
twofold. What we're going to do, talk to you about how we feel about these recent interviews we just did. And we're going to go over
just
some
like
news
general local news stuff and local politics in general, just like off the dome. But yeah, Adam, I actually have a topic that I know a good bit about that I want to kind of like info dump and discuss my opinions on. Would that be fine with you?
Go right ahead.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen along and monitor the tech side.
I want to talk about county commission districts. I'm going to start off with a question to you because I'm curious and I don't know. I didn't realize until recently, Helena, your hometown, what was it? You were the mascot. It's a dog.
Huskies.
Yeah. Go Huskies, right?
Yes,
I'm from Homewood, which is squarely in Jefferson County. Thank you very much. No one toe in Shelby, one toe in Jefferson. But it turned your little small town does have a toe in Jefferson and a toe in Shelby. So do you know which county your folks live in?
They live in Shelby.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think most, just like, well, I don't want to say Hoover. I don't know if like the majority of Hoover is in Jefferson or Shelby. I think a good bit of it is in both. When I lived in Hoover, it was very close to Vestavia, and it was in Jefferson. But also Vestavia, it also has a toe in Jefferson and a toe in Shelby. Mountain Brook is entirely in Jefferson, to my understanding. Even Birmingham proper is mostly Jefferson. Think of it as a Jefferson city. I mean, it is like the largest city in Jefferson County, right? The fact that Jefferson County, it has so many like middle class Black folks and liberal white folks and just like Black people and minorities in general is due very much to the Birmingham anchor, because Birmingham is those things. It's very much a city of no city, especially a city that large, is a monolith, right? But it is very much for Alabama it's majority Black, but it's also a city of like, even in the middle class white communities, people are very, very liberal, right? Like Representative Neil Rafferty, who's openly gay and is white, comes from a district in Birmingham, and his predecessor, Patricia Todd, was white and openly lesbian, and if you hear me, like, if you're a stranger and you hear me talking about race, or, do I resent, on at least on some level, that I have to talk about race so much? Yes. But, it really should, in an ideal world, it really would have no bearing on your politics or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is, in America, and especially in Alabama, it really does tend to track along those lines. More so even than class, right? What the statistics say generally, right, is that putting aside race and ethnicity and everything, if you're liberalism goes up, or being left wing tends to track with the level of education. Now, hear me, right? I'm not saying that every conservative is uneducated. Although if you're MAGA, you are dumb at this point, or just evil. I'm sorry, it's got to be said.
I didn't say it. He did.
Yeah. Trust me. He does not strongly disagree. But like, if you're still out there being MAGA, being like ride or die with the Trump administration, you are in the category of either evil or dumb or both, right? Because they're not contradictory. You can be both evil and dumb, right? Regardless of how educated you are, or what religion you're a part of or whatever, you know. But right, like so what the statistics say is like education, right? Whether you have a 2-year degree, 4-year degree, master's degree, PhD, JD, whatever, right? That tracks with liberalism or being left wing. Whereas wealth, right, just having income or property or assets tracks with being conservative or right wing. So the most liberal people, right, tend to be people like us, right? People who have education, right? We both have 4-year degrees from the same university, in fact. Again, go Falcons.
Montevallo twinsies.
Yep. I was on the purple side. I was on the green side. We can talk about what that means later, if
I
y'all
was
want.
on the dark side.
Yep. But um, uh, you know, people like us, right? A lot of people in our generation who have like at least 4-year degrees, but we don't have a lot of income or upward mobility for whatever reason, for whatever systemic and personal reasons. We're both in like working class jobs, but we both have degrees. So that tends, people who are in that category tend to be, again, not all, no one's a monolith, right? And this isn't even necessarily value judgments, right? I'm speaking objectively, right? What social scientists will tell you, at least some of them, right? It is that like people with the most people with education, but who are like underemployed, or don't have a whole lot of like extra income, tend to be the most liberal or left wing. Whereas like think of like who the people are, especially around here in this state, maybe even in your family, who don't necessarily have 4-year degrees or master's degrees or even like associate's degrees, but they have property, they have income, they may even be retired, right? Like think like military people. I mean, I guess military people also tend to be a bit more hawkish, right? So that may play into the conservatism, um, but yeah, like people like that, right? Who like they didn't get a college degree, but they went into the military or they started a small business and they have a bunch of money and property because of it. They might tend to be very, very conservative or right wing or Republican. And I state for like the fifth time, there are no right. These aren't value judgments even, and these are not monoliths. That just tends to be the case. What were you going to say, Adam?
It's almost as if people that make a lot of money want to side with the party that is for the people that make a lot of money.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
just
But this
I
is
just like to
this is also,
supersize
by
my
the
channel.
way, why um uh you know right wing intellectuals, ironically, and why right wing politicians hate higher education. They all they do is trash higher education. It's also vice signaling, right, for their base. It's just like, hey, you guys hate the Ivy League, I hate the Ivy League. Have some red meat, you dumb dogs. Again, I'm not even
Vote for
saying
me.
that. They think you're dumb. That's why they do that. If you're MAGA, they think you're dumb. I think you could do better, right? In this case. But it's like,
Probably
hey,
that.
I hate the Ivy League, you hate the Ivy League. But other than that, right, they hate education because they know when, for a combination of reasons, both because of exposure to diversity and because of what you learn in college, right? People with education tend to be a little bit more liberal or moderate or left wing or democratic leaning, So like this is what this brings us to, like the mix of people in the county. You have middle class white people, upper class white people, and then you have black people who are in all different categories. But regardless of where they tend to be on the spectrum of wealth and income, they tend to vote Democratic, right? And honestly, that's because like, why shouldn't they? Right? Like if you just look at it from the outside, the Republican Party has never been more overtly racist. I'm sorry. Right? Like when
Wow,
these
they calling us all racist.
yeah, when you come out in here and you're like, anytime, right, you go to the bat for people saying that like you run on getting rid of DEI, right? And this whole thing is like premise on the edge. In previous years, they just came out right and said the same things about affirmative action. They said the same thing about Obama getting elected as a black president. That if any consideration was given to your race or your background or to diversity, that you didn't earn what you have, and that's racist, right? If you see someone right and that like affirmative action or DEI, which is like poorly defined, right? Like most people who talk about it on either side of the debate don't really understand it. Same thing with like I don't even really understand critical race theory, right? But different subject, right? But if you just like if you see a black person or you talk about these things and you say like, oh, it's that means that minorities are earning things that they don't deserve. That's just racism. And then when you go after like Muslims and Arabs and Palestinians and Hispanic people and undocumented immigrants and everything else, and you trash these people, right? Like most black people are smarter than that. They know what that's about. They don't think, oh, most of them, right? Who live around here don't think that you're going to stop with those minorities, right? They're also like, oh yeah, no, you're saying this to earn like brownie points from people who also hate me and think low of me. You know what I mean? So like, yeah,
Yeah, that's
black
that's
people around
honestly
here have been
exactly what
voting.
they're saying.
What were you saying?
Honestly, yeah, that really is exactly what it is starting to sound like. It is just it honestly I can see I can see this from the and it appalls me that I'm seeing a number greater than zero of Trump's supporters for this reason because of how blatantly racist he's become now.
Oh yeah, well my personal theory, right, is like people so Trump himself, right, he was a New York like maybe kind of moderate Democrat before 2008. If you want to put labels on it, he was definitely by all means a Democrat. He voted for Democrats, he supported Democrats, he he was friends with the Clintons. you know um but you know, with the exception that he ran on like a weird like protectionist third party when he actually ran for president the first time in like the late 90s, early 2000s. My personal theory is right. It's as simple as when he saw a black man become the head of the Democratic Party, that's when he decided to switch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when he saw one of them folks of color become head of the demon rats, he decided it was time to step in because
The
Obama
community organizer in chief. How you gonna be
because
president when you just a community organizer, son? Nah, but like, yeah, I think it's partly as simple as that. And well, if you want evidence of the fact that he was racist towards Obama, just look at like his the main thing he's known for coming out and criticizing Obama for was this conspiracy theory based on his ethnicity and who his dad was, right?
Obama was born in Kenya.
Yeah, and then the goalposts shifted to prove to me that he even went to college. I mean, like, what the frick? Like, do you guys like? I'm sorry, white people. Like, and that goes not just for like MAGA white people, right? But like contrarians who might even be like, prove to me that he's racist. Like, if you don't see through this stuff, I don't know what to tell you. But it's like it's gotten to the point, right, where over the years, like if you debunk one thing he said, right, I know it may sometimes feel like the media or certain media like do nothing but talk about Trump and talk about different possible ways he might be racist or whatever. But even if you debunk one thing, there's like 10 other things where he's like overtly racist or xenophobic or sexist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, honestly it's to the point calling it talking to a wall is insulting to walls because walls support something useful. Like this it I've seen it I hate to cite TikTok debate bros, but I've seen TikTok debate bros debating MAGA over and over and over again. They will provide a mountain of evidence that Trump is racist, a misogynist, that, and their defense will be the political equivalent of nuh-uh.
Yeah. So again, back to Jefferson County, right? Like, it's just, the fact of the matter is, um, there are a lot of white folks, right, in the broader county, right, outside of like Birmingham proper and the suburbs a little bit, who tend to vote Republican, and there are a lot of and black folks tend to just vote straight Democrat. Um, there are a good number of like Asian and Hispanic, different types of immigrants who maybe don't fall into the category of black or white. I don't know if we have like established data on how they vote in Jefferson County, to the extent that that matters, because let's be real, a lot of them aren't citizens yet, right? And a lot of them aren't even like permanent residents yet. So it's probably going to be a while before we have good data on like, but a lot of them, they are a big part of our community. If you go in like certain places in like Hoover or Homewood, it seems like there's nothing but Hispanic people. And to be clear, I love that. And there's a lot of Arabs and Muslims and stuff too, which the you know current Alabama Republicans, are trying, like Tommy Tuberville, are trying to use, the Muslim community in particular as like another way to throw red meat to the base, right? And I hope that they get punished for that. I hope that anyone who is Arab or Muslim, uh, is related, to any of these folks, right, who can vote or donate, do vote and donate, and that they do it for the Democratic Party, and that Republicans see, oh crap, maybe this isn't a good strategy. Maybe we should like actually stand up for people living in our community next time, and that we should tell people like Tommy Tuberville to shut up. But I won't hold my
Honest,
breath. Um,
honestly, sorry, yeah, honestly, I feel like I feel like that is why acts are like the Save Act, like the Save Act or something they're trying to ram through Congress because they realize that a lot a lot of Democratic voters are people of color. Like they feel like playing the Save Act is a way of effectively playing the race card against races that tend to vote Democratic and the sex card against women because a lot of Democratic voters are probably women.
Oh, but let's be clear, right? Yeah, like the woman part, yeah, that just illustrates this is like they're either dumber or even more dangerous than they were before. Again, probably both, right? It's both evil and dumb. And I don't know if they're just like with the closed primary things in Alabama, I don't know if they're trying to gamble with, on the one hand, I might get eaten alive by like some like MAGA lunatic like Mo Brooks in my primary because I don't have Democrats to come bail me out. On the other hand, I can lock black people and liberals out of primaries in like safely Republican constituencies. And we can just have the solid South again, except with an R, next to it instead of a D next to it. But
To be fair, yeah, you can't worry about rival if you just make it illegal for them to vote. To be fair, I mean work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, exactly. But the Save Act, yeah, like you're right. It would by default, right, or maybe even by intention, right. It would. disenfranchise a lot of women, including a lot of white women and a lot of women who might otherwise vote Republican, because to my uh, it would like I don't know, like maybe I need to read an updated like line by line right thing about the SAVE Act, like I've done with some other laws. My understanding is like a lot of the discourse around that, right, is like it's required to have you're required to have a document proving you were born as a U.S. citizen or that you're a U.S. citizen, but then the document also has to match your birth name, meaning not only people who identify as transgender and have changed their names or have changed their names for other reasons, like maybe they just hate their dad or something, because there are people who change their names for all sorts of reasons, not just marriage. But the most common like traditional one that like conservatives are supposed to be in favor of is just women just like changing their last name, right? And all sorts of people do it for all sorts of reasons, right? You can't like clearly predict whether like there are like feminists who change their names and there are like anti-feminists who don't, but like that's just a large swath of women, including women who may vote Republican, who just changed their names because they got married. But ironically, right, that's just supposed to be like a traditional thing that they support. You know what I mean? So it's like they're trying to roll back the 19th Amendment. They're trying to do like poll tax type, like disenfranchise poor people, including poor whites and poor Hispanics again, right? Because like there are a lot of people who don't even think about traveling just because they've never been exposed to the idea, or they just don't have the money for it. And those people tend to be disproportionately working class,
i.e., myself.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like that was another aspect of the solid South, right? Is that not only could black people not vote, not only could women not legally vote before the 19th Amendment, poor white people who might have supported conservative or Democrats or white supremacist candidates weren't allowed to vote because they were like, no, we don't want you rednecks, you filthy hicks, like influencing our primaries or our general elections. Look, let the good, decent, rich people handle it. In New Orleans and Baton Rouge and Montgomery and the inner echelons of Birmingham. You know.
We don't need none of them. We don't need none of them poor hillbillies trying to influence our
Oh,
elections. We
you got the
need.
wrong accent because you're kind of still doing a redneck accent as to be like, I do declare we do not need any of these filthy rednecks who I would not even let into my country club, getting their filthy hands on our ballots. I do say I
I
wouldn't even
will
let some of these
say.
people work on my plantation.
Oh, not, hear that, y'all? Jacob condones plantation work. I do.
No,
I would too, but
what
not
I
for the.
condone is bullying people from Mountain Brook who vote Republican and are against raising the minimum wage, right? Because that's the modern day plantation oligarchs right there.
They're for raising, but not your minimum wage.
Oh yeah, no, they want to raise their CEOs minimum wages. Yeah, to be clear.
Yeah, think of the billionaires, man. Like how could you
You want to
think?
raise my state property tax by 0.5% so that poor people can have a better education? How dare you?
By the way, if anyone's looking to the right and below me on the broadcast, I am trying to keep a cat quiet by giving him attention so he doesn't end up meowing.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
So the county commission, right? Let's dive straight into what I wanted to talk about. So the history of the county commission is uh, Jefferson County was controlled by racist white people. We know that, right? There was historically, right, for the same reasons there's a white liberal core today in Jefferson County, there was a white liberal core back then. However, it was still controlled by white supremacists, right? Um, and
kind of on break.
yeah, kind of awkward, kind of awkward. We we should be embarrassed by some of this history if we're not, right? Even if we weren't there, even if maybe our ancestors per se weren't there, but we got to talk about it, right? So like after the civil rights movement, they took a look at the fact that the Jefferson County Commission was entirely elected at large, meaning that white people who tended to only vote for white candidates um, had disproportionate power, right? And that didn't give Black people enough power under the Voting Rights Act and the 15th Amendment, right? And this is not my opinion, right? This isn't even historians' opinion. This is what ended up getting ruled about in federal cases. So they said, don't do it at large. You have to have districts. And then it ended up either in those immediate cases or in subsequent cases, look, create these 2 districts that are at least 65% Black, because that was another part of the remedy that ended up being mandated by federal courts. And those districts exist today as Districts 1 and District 2, right? And those are held today by 2 Democratic Black women. Now,
Them districts must be falling apart.
Now, however, well, there's still 3 Republican white men, right? Which is what I'm about to talk about, right? After I turn off my AC.
I understand mine's been off this whole time because it's a little noisy. I got a window unit over there.
Yep. But so in the past, right? They were Democrats were able to, right? Black Democrats were able to get a foothold and have a majority in the county commission. So there's like 5 county commission districts, right? And so 3 is a majority. In the past, we've had a majority Democrats, which correlated with majority Black, because the things we talked about before, right? It is what it is. But then, when I was a teenager, and I don't know what exact year, right? Like, for instance, I know in 2010, that's when Republicans took over the legislature. I don't remember exactly what year Republicans took over the county commission, but they did, And so then they started looking at, after the last redistricting a couple years ago, there was another court challenge that was based on, hey, y'all basically did gerrymandering. Y'all like, these districts make no sense, right? It's obviously racial, and it goes beyond, right? There's evidence that y'all knew it was racial, and that it wasn't just partisan, and it wasn't just coincidental, right? Because and that it was like the type of racial gerrymandering. It's not like remedial, right? Mandated racial considerations, like with the 65% thing with the 2 districts. It was like y'all tried to create unnecessary supermajorities. And here's the twist, right? Both the white men and the Black women, meaning the Democrats and the Republicans, I think all of the incumbents were kind of on board with this. Because think about it, right? Like they're all sitting there together, and they're like, so first of all, like, it's a county commission, right? With the Jefferson County Commission, party doesn't actually matter as much as it does in like the state legislature or in Congress, right? It's because we're mostly, what they talk about when they run is things like potholes, right? Like fund, how much you should fund the county schools, zoning issues, things like that. These are not like strictly partisan issues, right? So it's not as they run on party platforms, but it's not as partisan as other bodies. So they can kind of work together better than or collaborate together better than like the legislature can. There's not as much interest in right. The stakes aren't as high in keeping it for one party or another, right? But what the incumbents, I think, were interested in regardless was, hey, if you like racially gerrymander to create a supermajority for me, then I'll have a safe incumbency, right? because if you're safely for one party, then you probably have a safe incumbency. Does that make sense?
If the area is safely heavily leaning towards one party, you're bound to have that seat for a while. By the
Yeah,
way, for anyone that doesn't know the definition of gerrymandering, I put a bare bones definition on your screen. It's gonna be on top of your screen right now. I'll have it up for a little while.
yeah. So basically, right, what this lawsuit pointed out was like, so y'all went so far as to split up tiny little towns like Homewood, like the town I'm standing in, right? So Homewood has, and it, to be fair, it's been this way for a while. I think some of it was just like a convenient, or even it's not the most unreasonable split, right? Like there is some connection between so they split up Homewood, right? And they split it not only for the county commission, right? Here's my beef, right? They split it up for every district. Like it's split up based on for the congressional district. It's split up for the state senate district. It's split up for the state house district. It's I don't know about city council, but like that's a whole different. We're looking at smaller neighborhoods there. That's I'm not even going to touch that, right? But basically, like Homewood has 26,000 people. There happens to be it happens to be a little more diverse than some suburbs or majority white rural areas, and so they split up right in all these different districts, including the county commission district. Um, the majority black, historically black community, Rosedale, into a different county commission district than the rest of Homewood, right? And so, you know, I'm going to say it's not that bad, right? It's not indefensible, right? If you don't know what else they did with Homewood, right? Which is that how are you going to split up my town of 26,000 people based on race, right? And then you're gonna put my side, the white side, in the largest county commission district because that's what they did, right? We have an over the mountain county commission district that is District 5 that is way bigger than all the other districts, way bigger. Um,
Yeah, I'm just like that's legal. How exactly?
yeah, this was pointed out in the lawsuit. It's like, guys, this makes no sense. District 5 is way bigger than everyone else. You guys were not using like rational, like race neutral, markers here to create
It's
your
Alabama.
districts.
We don't do that here.
Yeah, so like priority one for me, right, is like split District 5 the hell up, and that's not, and to be clear, right, Mike Bolin, my current county commissioner, right? I've had good exchanges with him through email in the past, at least one, right? He's not the worst politician. He's not the worst Republican. He used to be a judge, and then there was a special election, and he jumped in, and because our district is gerrymandered to be majority Republican, majority suburban white. He ended up winning that special election. But it wasn't, the only beef I have with that, right, is that like, and I did vote for the other candidate. It was he was a Jewish, like Democrat leaning, liberal leaning, a businessman from like, I want to say Mountain Brook. It doesn't really matter, but I voted for him because he was the more liberal or Democratic supporting candidate. I don't know if they were officially partisan labeled yet in that special election, but Mike Bolin is a Republican, and he's now labeled, who won that election is labeled as a Republican for the purposes of the county commission. And he's not the worst. I honestly don't have a problem. I don't know anything. There are a couple of Republican members of the commission who I don't know anything about. I honestly don't have a huge problem with the president of the county commission, who's a Republican. And again, like the county commission, right, with the conversations we have and with the things they run on, it's not terribly like high stakes partisan to begin with. You know what I mean? Again, it's like potholes. It's like, should we build this bridge? Should we give an extra grant, for this high school? Oh, hey, let's give a shout out to this other high school for winning a sports ball game. Yay. It's kind of cute actually. Like I watched a whole county commission meeting where they started singing like "Happy Birthday" for one of the members at the end. Although
Oh,
in the
that is kind of wholesome.
Yeah, although in the moment I was like, it was post live stream, right? That's just one of the things, right? That like I just watch, right? If I have it available to me and it's the latest like thing that's live streamed is like county commission meetings, because it's important and why not? And because I'm a nerd. But like at that point, I was like, okay, yeah, that meeting's done. I'm done with this video. I don't even like people singing "Happy Birthday" to me. It makes me cringe out, you know.
You hear that, everybody? You hear that, everybody? Start to record yourself singing "Happy Birthday" and send it to this channel. I'll send it to Jacob.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say, are you calling me old? Because I'm not 30 yet, right? It's not January of next year yet, right? And you can listen to a Bo Burnham song on that subject.
Get off my lawn!
Yeah, but no, the problem is like District 5 is just way too big. It doesn't make sense, right? We have way too many. I'm glad I had one good email exchange with Mike Bolin, right? But wouldn't the representative, wouldn't with the commissioner for District 5's job be a little bit easier if he was representing a smaller constituency? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like if I'm gonna take a look District 5 to get an idea, like at the point you're describing, it would honestly be best not to have a representative, but to have representatives. Like at the point you're describing, it is it's the District 5 for like for like the DC Congress.
Well, so there are a couple problems with that. I obviously if you add more politicians. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and explain my idea after I say this, but you would then it wouldn't. So the main way to judge, besides like geographic coherence and things like that, right? Other like race neutral, and ideally like party neutral markers, right? The main way to judge whether a district is fair is whether like it doesn't have, it doesn't represent that many more or that many fewer people than the other districts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah,
Based off of what
there's
I'm
no, I
seeing,
don't think there's a tradition really in Alabama. I mean, that it doesn't make it inherently a bad idea, right? But I don't think there's a tradition in Alabama of having multiple, commissioners for one district. Homewood, as a city, used to have two commissioners per ward, and that was silly, right? That's one of the things we got rid of when in our recent change of government. Because you're like, we're too small for this, right? Most cities don't have multiple counselors for one ward or one district. Why do we do this? But here would be my remedy, right? And it would be contingent upon could be contingent upon a couple things. Uh, Probably including like willingness of the state legislature to like revise some statutes to accommodate the kinds of changes I'm talking about. But I think this would be a compromise, right, based on concerns about racial and partisan balances of power. And before I would like officially advocate for this or talk to or talk about it with like elected officials or anything, I would want to talk about people who are on the ground involved with this issue. Like I know people personally who, in the latest federal lawsuit about this gerrymandering issue, which, by the way, they won in district court. They won.
Jacob, by the way, I'm gonna have to because the Zoom meeting timer has less than a minute on it. Sorry, y'all. Zoom meeting timers on Zoom meeting time. Zoom meetings are on a timer. Sorry, y'all. Zoom meetings are on a timer. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back. What if I kill the video here? Then will you? Yeah. Now with video.
Here I am. Yeah. So, like I was saying, on this gerrymandering issue I'm talking about, yeah. So, Judge Haikala, or if that's how her name is pronounced, who I've met, by the way, kind of, right? I did federal jury duty one time. She's an Obama-appointed district federal judge, but she ruled in favor of plaintiffs, some of whom I know, right, because they're local activists and local Democratic Party, executive committee members, um, saying, yeah, this county commission district is racially gerrymandered. There's some evidence that the commissioners would let it slip that's what they were doing, right?
I love when that happens when the politicians say the quiet part out loud and like
Yeah,
the Freudian salute.
yeah, but more than that, this just doesn't make sense. Like, the only reason you would be splitting up these tiny precincts and splitting up these tiny towns this way and that way and adding more, white people to a district that's overpacked and adding more black people to a district that's overpacked is if you're racially gerrymandering in this case to create both white and black supermajorities while keeping the majority of the districts safely white Republican. And so from there, it went to the Judge Haikala had ordered that the county commission, and I even think it's if it's messed up, right? So I think there should be an independent commission that takes care of districting for the state legislature, right? Have you heard of those reforms, Adam? Of like,
I don't think I have. I'm
yeah,
listening along, by the way, just since we're talking about the Jefferson County districts. I'm going to see if I can pull the picture for the
yeah,
people.
that would be awesome. Yeah, just they can hear see how weird it looks, right? And how big some of the districts are, like geographically or population wise. But where was I? Yeah, so I, some states have implemented a reform where there's an independent commission that takes care of legislature and congressional redistricting instead of just having, the politicians make their own districts and for districts that other members of their party and their country club and their fraternity are going to compete in. Instead you would have an independent commission that is as much as possible right this removed from these partisan electoral interests. I don't know exactly how they're appointed, how well they meet the goals. I need to do more research on how independent districting commissions work out in practice. I think that if there's a good argument, and that makes sense to you, right? You know what I'm describing,
Um, yes. Sorry, I'm still trying to find.
right?
Ha- is it's Jefferson County? Is it just Jefferson County, Alabama districts, or
Yes, the Jefferson County, Alabama County Commission districts, and on the you can find a map actually on the county commission website.
oh, okay. I will head to that.
Yeah, but anyway, so if it's messed up and self-interested for and dangerous for state legislators to be looking at their own districts and county commission district, well, not county commission districts, and congressional districts and deciding, who needs to be where. It seems even more messed up that county commissioners by default get to draw their own districts. You see what I mean? Like it's just a small pool of people collaborating together in a room, deciding like the like exact constituencies that they get to represent. Right? It's not like, well, I'm obviously my district is at play, but I have like 100 other people I have to answer to who will also make that decision, and then I'm looking at their district and blah blah blah. It's like five people in a room being like, okay, let's make sure I still stay here and that you still stay there, and if we shake hands at the end, we'll all have a good, a fine dandy time, making sure that we get exactly what we want, and that seems pretty not like the most trustworthy system. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, it really does not. Like it. See, it seems like it is just begging to be rigged. By the way, on y'all screen now, Jacob, you won't be able to see this yet, but on y'all screen now is the Jefferson County Commission districts, and geez, like what what in Sam Hill am I looking at? It's looking like District 3 is taking up most of the county.
Yeah, so District 3 is basically the rural white people district.
Oh, that explains it.
Yeah, so they
D-
they get they're the largest by land mass, and probably, probably. If you look at the map, it definitely seems like the largest by landmass. Although to be fair, that kind of makes sense because uh, they're more than anyone else the represent the rural white areas. Um,
Yeah, and I can see like knowing that this you were right, knowing that this was drawn by Republicans, I can tell which districts are usually Democrats, judging by how small they are.
Right. But to be clear, right, I think the two Democrats in the room were also in on this just so they could make sure that they would be safely in a super majority where they would where their constituent where their incumbency would be even safer. You know what I mean? Which is why
Yeah,
initially they were named in the lawsuit.
yeah, that that is so that is so screw like how like I really don't understand to this day how that is even legal. Like you are literally it is legalized.
You kind of cut out there, fam. Were you still speaking?
Sorry, it is legalized cheating.
Yeah, it definitely is. And they were ruled against in district court. Now, from district court, right? Now, I think honestly, what happened in the appeals court was reasonable because what the district judge was asking was, okay, remedy this right now before the next election, right? Create a new district right now, draw new maps right now, but that would have put everyone in an awkward position because they wouldn't have known what districts they were because at this point it was just so close to the 2026 county commission primaries and general elections that are happening this year, right? So they're like people, all of the candidates would have been in an awkward position because no one would have known what district they lived in, so it was a bad time to try to force that kind of remedy. So I think what the appeals court did by putting a stay on that was reasonable. We have time to deal with this after the 2026 election. You know,
Hey, speaking of the
come
2026
what
election,
may, and go
sorry.
ahead.
Speaking of that election, what I'm gonna do is try to find information a little later about key information a little later, and put things up as needed as I see it. But yeah, I hate to do it because I want to. I hate to do it because I'm on a bit of a time crunch. But we also wanted to cover. Sorry, did you?
What we finish what you were saying?
I hate to. I hate to shelf this idea, but I'm on a bit of a time crunch for a job interview I have soon. So what we also was read through local news with you guys and see and take a look at what was going on. Take a look at what's going on.
Sorry,
So,
I'll let you, since I took the lead on the previous thing, I'll let you take the lead on this one.
okay, so on y'all's screen now is going to be local news. Jacob, what I'm going to do to save myself the stress because I don't want my computer to bug out. Um, what I'm going to do is read off pertinent headlines, and let's see if I can find. We will head to Birmingham. Okay, here's a good one. Birmingham Water Board blames past leaders as fluoride controversy grows. Now, for those of us that don't know, fluoride is a chemical
How
that is
convenient.
added to the water. Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, it's very. I said how convenient, but I would also add that's a classic like politician. I'm technically they're not politicians, right? But that's a classic political move. Like literally everyone does. Look, every successful person in government, whether you like them or hate them, does this, right? They're like, is there a problem? Oh, actually, it's the last guy's fault.
I'm gonna try to share. I'm gonna try to share screen for you. This is the Zoom meeting. Can you see all this?
Yup.
facing scrutiny for their decision to immediately stop adding fluoride to drinking water without input from the public. Seriously? The
Well, to be
leaders of
fair,
Alabama's largest water
isn't
utility said
fluoride
most customers have.
isn't fluoride like turning the frogs gay or something?
Oh yeah, that too. But fluoride, for those of us that don't know the problem with this, there have been multiple reports. Let's Google one ourselves so we can take a look. There have been multiple reports of fluoride being removed from drinking water. Actually, I'll put you sources in the description of this broadcast later on. But let's ask the internet what fluoride is in particular. Fluoride is a naturally occurring mineral found in many foods and water, which helps prevent tooth decay. Now, that kind of sounds important, doesn't it? Now, fluoride is, while it's harmful in large quantities, the amount that local water boards put in the water is minuscule. Like, it's just enough to help you avoid tooth decay, but it's just enough to where it has no known issues. As criticism grew, the utility defended position. Of course, they always do. They always blame previous incumbents. Like they honestly, it's something that gets exhausting after a while.
Yeah.
Let me check the broadcast because I'm hearing myself twice, but let me check the broadcast to make sure because it might be feeding me audio. Honestly, it's something that gets exhausting. Okay, I'm hearing myself twice, but no one else is. I can live with
Yeah,
it.
that's correct. Yeah, up until like just a second ago, I didn't hear you twice. You were coming through fine with no echo.
All right, yeah, I can live with hearing myself twice on my headphones, but it's fine. It's a it's a good way to audio. Make sure I'm hearing myself okay. But yeah, in a court filing on Wednesday, Mark Farnell, former longtime attorney for the, said the leadership is unfairly blaming former leaders. In his filing, asked for Jefferson County to indeed. Okay, so it is generally friction between the old leaders and current leaders regarding water fluoridation. Which, trust me, there have been situations of people with horrible tooth health in losing water fluoridation
Well,
with.
to the extent that this was supposed to happen, right? Like what does the article say? Like why does the article say that the previous leaders or the current leaders tried to do this? Right? Did somebody think this was a good idea to save money?
Yeah, let's take a look. Some current and former board members said the old board was never notified of any malfunction or failure to provide fluoride. I want to be clear: the former board and was it was what didn't they choose it and are now claiming that they choose it, are defending its position, and are now claiming that they never knew about it. It's important to realize pretty much no one in Birmingham has any fluoride in their water for over 2 years. We're about to start sounding like London. But why did they? Matson said Central Alabama Water followed state law by notifying customers before discontinuing fluoride treatment in its drinking water. But a spokesperson, why did they do it? Okay, so they didn't notify anybody of their cessation of fluoridation. They just stopped doing it. Only the Shades Mountain filter plant. Okay, so it's a cost saving measure. They're trying to save money. Why were they trying to save money? What what exactly was fluoridation what exactly was causing problems with fluoridation? Okay, Central Alabama serves 70 made the announcement shortly after a contentious board meeting significant operating cuts, austere budget sets a higher standard. Okay, so they're just using it's just budget cuts. Jesus Christ, a pretty significant budget cut too. You see that? That's that's a pretty big dip right there. The recent
Okay, so
layoff.
Adam, I have another source for you, right, to analyze. So, are you able to go onto Facebook onto not Randall Whitman's personal page, but his public figure page?
I can try. How do you spell that name?
So it's if you didn't know, it's the mayor of Birmingham, by the way, who also happens to be a lawyer. But it's Randall, like you know how to spell Randall, right? Two L's at the end,
Yeah, I have that right there.
and then Woodfin, like Woodfin, and then
Oh, there he is.
yeah, go onto his Facebook page. This is the easy way to find the source I'm trying to direct you to.
See if he has a public figure Facebook page. I should access it. Yes, I'm able to access it. Okay.
Yeah, so he wrote a longer post about what Alabama law, according to him, says about fluoride and the implications here.
Quoting Alabama law is clear. Under Section 22, 23, 21 of the Code of Alabama, any public water system that wants to permanently change its fluoridation status has to notify the state health officer in writing at least 90 days before making the change. That notice has to include the proposed date, the reasons, and every community affected. And if they don't follow the law, the statute says they have to resume fluoridation at its previous level until proper notice is given. So here's my question for Central Alabama Water. Did you follow this law? Did you notify the state officer 90 days ago? Did you list every community in Jefferson, Shelby, St. Clair, Blount, and Walker counties that would be affected? Because if you didn't, this is a violation of the law. And the remedy is simple. Turn the systems back on until you follow the process. This is the same board that promised transparency, not for you, it seems. Because when they said transparency, they didn't actually mean transparency, I guess.
Yeah, they don't. Like Keith talked to us about yesterday, they don't even want their own customers, right? Their own ratepayers showing up to a meeting where they're about to finalize some changes. They'll let the media
Which,
in. They won't let in everyday ratepayers who don't have a camera or
which,
don't have a expensive camera to film local news.
which honestly is kind of weird. Which honestly is kind of, I'd say, but no, weird is perfect. Um, but yeah, Alabama Water. If Central Alabama Water serves your community, you might need to monitor your dental health more closely moving forward, unless they comply with the law, which this is an American company, so I think the answer is going to be no. They won't comply with the law, but that's just me. Now, next up, we saw um, this, which caught my eye 271 private schools now enrolled in Alabama's school choice program. More private schools are now correct me if I'm wrong, isn't universal vouchers just a way to dance around separation of church and state in schools?
Um, Arguably part of it. I don't care so much about that part, right? The only thing that the law or anyone mandates as far as like religious schools is just that um, you can't discriminate against religious schools, and you honestly like it's an interesting subject in that regard because it's two like completely contradictory understandings of the role of the First Amendment in this issue. Is like some people would be like, well, it mandates secularization of private fund considerations, would be the position. Don't give any money to what you know. we already have like federal contracts where like if you have a faith-based religious organization and you and that faith-based religious organization like helps people get food stamps or build shelters or anything like that, you can still get federal grants. Like nobody cares, right? If that's a hill you want to die on, have at it. Like I'm not gonna grab my Christian sword and like fight you on that hill, whatever. But my main thing is like that it just disproportionately benefits the rich, right? So it would be one thing, right, if they had a means tested program where they made sure that people who are actually in bad school systems or like school systems that are underfunded, school systems that are not, meeting their individual needs, however you want to put it, right? If allowed families who actually can't afford private school to go to like a Catholic school or a Waldorf school or whatever, that's not how it turns out. How it turns out is it's like disproportionately like middle class white people who are already going to private school get that voucher money. Um, and then there's the whole issue of charter schools. Charter schools are fine. The stats are in favor of like charter schools actually do help, minority students and poor students. Charter schools are just, specialized public schools that get a contract from the state so they can get public funding, but they're not under the same mandates. My thing about the way Alabama does charter schools is that I want local autonomy on the issue. I don't want the state to be able to come in and say, "Hey, privatize your damn school." I think the local government should have, at the very least. Well, actually, I don't think that should be allowed at all, right? Like, why is it school choice if what you're saying is privatize a school? You should be building new schools. You see what I'm saying? Right? If you want to build a new charter school, that's one thing. If you want to turn an existing public school into a charter school, it's like, no, just fund it better. Just make it a better public school. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But charter schools is a different issue, and then you have magnet schools, like Alabama School of Fine Arts, like the nursing school that Kay Ivey wants to build, and that's an entirely different thing. Which is just it's still public school. It's like entirely a public school. The difference is that you're not segmented into or out of the school based on your district. Does that make sense?
yeah. So sorry, I hate to have to end this broadcast early, but I had lost track of time. I had a obligation to attend to later today that is this on me that I have to go attend to. We'll hit you with more news at a later date, but at this time, I'm probably gonna have to step away to go get ready for this interview. We will join us with Kay Stixon at a later to be announced date. But thank you for joining us, Jacob. Is there anything you want to say?
Free Palestine.
Free
Also,
Palestine.
Mountain Brook is Mountain Brook should be demolished. I'm just kidding. I love Mountain Brook, but seriously, get your crap together. Care about your employees and people who are poorer than you.
That's fair. All right. Thanks for